Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Penny Pincher Firearms. Today, I'm going to be shooting Mosin-Nagant, which is what I would consider like the classic penny pincher firearm. A lot of people who were getting into guns, probably in the early 2000s, up until recently really, have been buying Mosin-Nagants. I mean, my dad bought one for $50 in the late 90s. And as recently as when I bought this one, this was $100. And I still see them for less than $200 in most cases. I mean, they're nothing special. They're probably one of the most basic repeating rifles that you could buy. It's bolt action, as you can see. If you don't know much about bolt action, so I've shot straight pulls in the past on the channel, and of course I've shot my Krags, but a bolt action rifle is where you lift up on the bolt and you run it back, run it forward to load a round, and then close the bolt. Real simple design. You know, it was revolutionary in its day. This is one of the first generation smokeless powder rifles. This particular design was developed in 1891. It was adopted by Imperial Russia. This one though was made in 1939 at the Tula Arsenal. We'll get a close-up on the receiver when I do the loading video. And today I'll be shooting at 50 yards. I'll be shooting 10 rounds though. First, I'm gonna shoot some surplus Soviet era ammunition. This stuff was made in the 1970s. I'm not sure exactly where. There's a factory number on there. I think it's like 151. And then the next 10 rounds will be Winchester factory ammunition. And we'll see how accurate this stuff is in comparison to the surplus ammo. I expect higher accuracy out of this. Now, I've owned this rifle for quite some time. I've put a lot of rounds through it, and it's always been a really accurate rifle. It's really inexpensive to feed. You can still buy cans of 440 rounds of 7.62 boot by 5.4 online for around $150. You know, back in the early days, you can get that stuff for $50 a can. Most recently, I bought a can for $100, but I got a really good deal on it. But that was still a little while ago. I think it was like a year and a half back. It was a while back. So, you know, ammunition is easy to find for these rifles, especially that surplus stuff. A lot of countries also export ammunition for these rifles. So it's not hard to find the ammunition. That's why this is a really good penny pincher. Most cases, 20 rounds will cost you like $10. You can find tool ammo, Wolf, I think it's Brown Bear. There's all kinds of companies from Eastern Europe that actually produce ammunition for these firearms that is really good ammo. So I'm just shooting the American stuff because I know people are probably going to wonder about like the higher quality stuff. You know, and these have a really good history as sniper rifles, as designated marksman rifles. These are really good rifles. I've never had a problem with this one other than like rim lock because the round is rimmed. You'll see that on the close-up. So why don't I shut my gob and let's start shooting. So I think a lot of you guys might be really familiar with this form of ammunition. It's, you know, standard rifle ammo. Like I said, it's rimmed right here. A lot of firearms of the day, back in the 1890s, they were starting to move over to rimless ammunition, but the Russians maintained a rim, and in fact they still use this ammunition to this day. So this is common ammo. This is particularly common ammo, in fact, because Russian machine guns, Russian designated marksman rifles, even some of their sniper rifles will shoot this type of ammunition, not necessarily this loading. This is a very basic loading. It has corrosive primers, so you do have to clean it pretty well after shooting. So I have it on a 5-round stripper clip. This is an original Russian stripper clip, and it makes it really easy to load in, but we may or may not experience it, but these clips have a tendency to give you what's called rim lock, and that's where one rim, when you load them, say this is on the bottom of the magazine, the top rim will get stuck there, so when you're trying to feed it into the chamber, it won't load properly, so you kind of have to pretty much slam on it so it'll load. Can be a problem at times, but hopefully that won't happen. If it does, we'll deal with it in time. So let me load this in the magazine so you guys can see that and give you an idea of how the safety works on this rifle. Alright, so loading the bolt is fairly easy. All you have to do is open the bolt, pull it back, you'll notice that there's some guide ribs right here. And what they do is guide these ribs on the stripper clip. Put the stripper clip in like that. Press down with your thumb until all the rounds are in there. And I've got it jammed. There we go. Now, I'm already experiencing rim lock. There we go. It's kind of one of those fiddly things that you just kind of got to mess with and it'll get it in. And you just close the bolt and you're good to go. And nobody ever said the Mosin-Nagant bolt was easy to run, okay? So don't expect it to be a super smooth rifle or anything. These were dead simple, cheap to build, simple rifles to run. So it's very much a Russian rifle. The safety's really simple. You turn the cocking piece over to the side like that, and now you can't fire. Very simple, but you can still run the bolt. It'll open the bolt and everything. So, not the safest safety, but at least it has one. Okay, so I'm set up at 50 yards, just behind the camera here, and hopefully the surplus ammo is usually decent. It's not like the best ammo, but like I said, it's not. It's designed for like multiple uses. It's not sniper ammo. The Russians actually make special sniper ammunition. So I have 5 rounds already loaded in the magazine. Let's start shooting. Also, some people might wonder why I do this with the sling. It actually improves your stability when you're shooting off a, I guess, a supported position like this, but you don't have like sandbags. It really, really helps. So there we go. That's 5 of these copper washed surplus rounds from the 1970s. So let's go check it out. All right, so that's actually not that bad. That's about what I expect from this rifle with the surplus ammunition. I'm not so sure how much the rounds weigh. I think they're 150 or 180 grains. The thing about those surplus rounds is I don't have any weight measures or anything on them. But yeah, this is about what I expect from that rifle. As normal, I'm shooting fairly fast. So let's see what the Winchester stuff does. All right, so the surplus ammunition pretty much performed as expected. It's not the best ammo. Might be fun for plinking or something like that, but I wouldn't consider it precision ammunition. So next we're gonna shoot these Winchester soft points. These are 180 grains. I know that for sure because of the box, and hopefully these will show a higher accuracy. But if you watch my M95 video, you know how that can go. That one didn't feel very good. Felt like it slipped. Alright, that's all 5 of that. So, feels pretty good. Felt a lot better than the last few rounds. Let's go take a look. Alright, that's not bad. That's a really good group right there. It just looks like the rifle shoots kind of high, but that's nothing to really complain about with the commercial ammo. Like I said, it's the Winchester metric calibers commercial ammo, 7.62x5.4 rimmed, and then I was shooting the surplus ammo earlier, and it looks like surplus ammo goes to point of aim, whereas the Winchester stuff goes high. So I tend to aim right at the dot, but perhaps next time I shoot it, I should shoot down here or maybe a little bit lower. But all in all, I could be happy with that. That's pretty good. The rifle's bore is a little tiny bit rough, but it's not terrible. Mostly because there was a summer where I let a friend of mine borrow this rifle, and she didn't clean it when she would shoot it. But, that's just how it goes. Still cool. I'm quite pleased. All right. Well, as you can see, this can be a very, very accurate rifle. I think there are 2 camps on these. There's one camp where they think for some reason each one of these is like a Russian sniper rifle. And then there's the other camp that thinks no matter what, these are all junk. All the barrels are shot out. But really, it depends on which ones you buy. Some of the early ones from the 1800s, late 1800s, they're good. They're in really good shape if, they were made outside of wartime. As soon as this is typical of Russian manufacturing. As soon as they go into war, they make things cheaper. This is true for most countries, but Russia really goes cheap. Same thing with the World War II era ones. This one was from 1939, so this was manufactured before Operation Barbarossa. And so the quality on this one is much higher. Things are much smoother on it. They look a whole lot nicer. So once you go into the ones made after Operation Barbarossa, typically like 1943 through 45, these things look rough, especially the receiver. Some of the barrels will look really nice because they're actually older barrels that they put onto the rifle. But the receiver will have all kinds of machining marks. They're not polished at all. But, that's because they were at war. They needed something that worked, something that functioned. And you know what? By God, these rifles function. Recently, though, some people have done some torture tests on these rifles. Some have found that they don't do so well with really overpowered ammunition. Ian over at In Range TV and Forgotten Weapons, he did a torture test with this rifle. He did get some dirt in the receiver. It stuck the whole thing. Didn't work after that. I'm not sure if that's just because he got unlucky and a rock got in there, because I feel like that could happen with some other firearms. But these are not the world's best rifles. These are not perfect rifles. These are just inexpensive guns that I think people have placed a legendary status on. Really, in the end, they're fun to shoot, just like any gun, I think. They're fun to shoot. They're a good high-powered rifle to have if you're just getting interested into high-powered rifles. They're inexpensive to feed, so you can get used to things like high recoil, shooting at long range. It may not be the most accurate thing in the world, but it's a gun that you can learn, I guess, the fundamentals of long-range marksmanship on. So, yeah, like I say, you can still find these for under $200. One of my favorite websites, Classic Firearms, they provide these, I think, for $180 or $190. You can get the really nice finish refit rifles, which are basically Russian receivers with finished barrels added on, and a really nice trigger. The finish really improved on this rifle a whole lot. So if you can get one of those, I'd suggest it. I'm actually thinking about getting one myself. So yeah, just remember guys, a good gun doesn't have to cost a pretty penny.